Well,
Now we
okay,
can't talk.
eventually.
I'm sure you'll get something up. You still haven't put your stealth makeup on and shot a line into the woods.
Yeah, I think I have to. If the weather gets a little bit better.
Oh, the weather's fine. It's supposed to be 65 tomorrow. Anybody
Yeah,
can
you
put
do-
an antenna up in sunny, warm weather.
yeah, but it
Yeah, do it before Friday.
It goes actually faster if it's cold.
You got to get it up, get the antenna up before Friday.
160 meter contest this weekend.
What is Friday? What kind of contest?
Snow. The snow. Get it up before the snow.
Yeah, they're predicting 6 inches this Friday.
Snow would help me. I could bury a cork cable in the snow.
Hey there,
Hey,
Gary.
Gary.
Hey, how are you? I'm going to plug in my power supply here. I noticed that this laptop is about ready to die, but looking forward to the meeting.
Cool. Sounds good. You still need to put a picture of your pooch in your background there.
I better, yeah. But well, you know, you might get more than a picture if she comes in here and tries. Now she's getting to the point where she's like 70 pounds, so she can make an appearance.
Well, that's good. Well, I finally figured out my client in West Hartford where I was today. The dog named Teddy is a chubby, it's either a French or a French bulldog or a Boston Terrier. I haven't figured that out.
Oh,
Little chubby thing, adorable and friendly as can be. Of course, likes the milk bones that I bring in for it, but
yeah, you're a good businessman, a smart businessman. Keep the dogs happy, and you're going to have a client for life.
I for years I've been carrying around boxes of milk bones in the car. So wherever there are dogs, I always bring in treats.
Smart move. Excuse me for a minute. I'm going to try to find a power supply for this
Yeah,
thing.
go right ahead. Go right ahead. And if let's see, I think I saw Vanessa join us and Steve and Larry there, and we should have a whole bunch more usually come in right at the last minute there, Marcia. So we're going to give them a little more time.
No problem.
Marcia, you weren't at the New England cabinet meetings, were you? Like a couple of years ago
Yes, I was.
when Fred first took over.
Fred, yep.
Okay,
Fred
okay,
one
that's
took
what-
over.
Fred one, yeah. I mean, VR Fred one. Yeah,
VR.
no. Because I remember the NTS was a big discussion at the one in Springfield that we did there, the New England cabinet meeting before the board
Yeah.
meeting there. I remember you talking.
We try to get a presence.
Oh yeah.
Tom helps me, Tom Walsh.
I was just curious because you looked familiar.
Yep.
Here they are. They're starting to pop in here.
Yeah. Hi, how are y'all?
Hey there, Steve. We're good. How are you doing?
Okay.
This will be something
Hey,
good for
guys,
you to
doing?
learn tonight. Oh, who's that?
Just me.
Oh, hi, Ken. How are you?
How you doing?
You're in your easy chair. That's something I have to fix. Hey there, Jackie.
Hi there.
Welcome to Western Mass from New York, Western New York.
Hi, Larry.
Western New York?
Yeah,
Yep.
she's from right near where my son went to college out in a little past Rochester.
Hi. Steve Shore ought to be with us tonight too.
He has a habit of popping in about 10 minutes before the meeting ends. That's what he's done the last 2 meetings. He pops in either right as the meeting ended or right before the meeting ended. So either his clock is off, he's still on daylight savings time or something.
Yeah,
don't know
like that. I hope everybody
There we
is
go.
virus free.
Let's certainly hope so, but come a few
But
more.
My son was under the weather, but it's not COVID, so just has to deal with it.
Oh, good evening, Bernard. Welcome to Western Mass here. Oh, who's that?
The other Larry.
Yeah, I'm gonna mute him. There we go.
Yeah, Marcia.
Beat you
just
to
a quick note
I
here.
beat you to it, Larry. I'm already muted.
All right, let's see here. We're at 7:30. I'm gonna give it another 2 minutes, Marcia, and then we'll get things rolling.
Okay.
Yeah, just a quick note, Marcia, Charlie here. I've got it everything at 19:30, so I'm not turning my back on you because I'm bored. I'm turning my back because I'm in charge of the nets. So I'll be
Oh.
watching the other half of this on the recording. But
All right.
Hey there,
I will-
Mary.
No,
Are you up here or are you down south somewhere camping? You're muted. You
audio.
gotta unmute.
Turn your audio on. There you go.
There I am.
Are you
I
camping?
think I'm,
Yeah, you're here. And you have audio
Okay.
now.
Yep.
So are you up here in where, or are you camping down south somewhere?
no, I'm in where? The trailer is still spending its winter nap.
Where are you?
That's,
That's exactly right.
Okay.
yeah, ours is winterized too. I can't wait for the warm weather to come, start camping again.
Well, it might be tomorrow, or it could be the day after that, or the day before that, or.
No, tomorrow's gonna be 65. The day after that, we're supposed to have 6 inches of snow, so.
Yeah,
oh, no.
a minimum of 6 inches.
Right.
Oh, really? Oh, they've changed
If
that.
they're,
Okay.
if they're as right as always.
Well, today never hit 50.
On
It was,
Saturday.
I don't think it ever hit above 40 today, so. Alrighty, here, we'll get things rolling. All right. I have to watch the participants here, but I expect more to pop in. Good evening, all. Welcome to another HCRA Share the Knowledge. I'm going to ask everybody if they can mute, because other than our guest speaker, and I'm going to go around muting everybody. Think. Okay, I think we're good there. So anyways, as everybody knows, we have our regular meetings the first Friday of the month, and in March coming up, I don't know the date in front of me, but we have Paul, W1SCX, talking about the New England Forest Rally and the communications for that, and having helped out with a few rallies through forest back in the 80s. It's a blast. It's a lot of fun. So hopefully you'll join us then. And tonight we have Marcia Ford, KW1U, from Maynard, Mass.
Maynard, yeah.
Okay.
Only
And
from Concord.
oh, Concord area. Okay. Yep. It's,
Yeah.
I love kayaking in Concord, so that's I know the area a bit. So anyways, she's going to talk to us about message handling, traffic handling, and the radiogram, which is still a relevant item in use today. I think I've shared the screen, Marcia, so you should have should be able to share, and the floor is yours.
You'll have to help me find it. Do I click on the share screen at the bottom?
Yes.
Okay, let me see. Get my thing up here.
Okay, it says screen
Now I
share.
have to get it in. I have to click on something to get rid of that over there.
I've never done it from your side. I've only done it from my side.
I did this 2 weeks ago and they told me what to do and I don't remember.
There you go.
It was a function key.
And F5 will bring you to full screen.
F5. Well, huh?
Well, it usually does.
Oh, wait, let me get this keyboard. There we go.
There you
I
go.
got two keyboards here. I forget which one I'm on. Okay, so we're going to talk about messaging and through relays, particularly in the national traffic system. And it's not only an important skill for MCOM, but it's also a fun activity for amateurs. So first off, I'm going to talk about message relay and a little history of the national traffic system, how it works, and how it's relevant today. And then I will spend some time talking about the radiogram, its background, why do we use that, and how to use it, and are there possibilities of using other formats. Because we have been asked more recently with the push toward emergency communications, can we handle the ICS 213, for example? So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then we'll talk about sending and receiving record traffic nets through the digital traffic network in WinLink. So let's see, I'll do that. Message relay, of course, it goes back to the beginning of time pretty much, but only since the 1900s have we been doing radiograms through the onset of radio communications, wireless communications. And back in the early 1900s, people were familiar with telegrams. They'd been around for half a century, and you could send a telegram, but it cost money. And you could send a letter, but that takes time. And people discovered that they could get on the air and on the amateur bands and send a free message. So it became rather popular. And so they developed various routes. They had to do relays because back in those days, the equipment that they had at that time rarely could reach more than a couple hundred miles or so. So they developed relay points in various parts of the country, and hams would be spending hours at a time just relaying traffic from one point to another, and traffic could go from point to point to point to point until it finally got to its destination. And in 1914, we're all familiar with that date, the beginning of the American Radio, quote, relay, unquote, league. The purpose of the ARRL was to organize these networks that they had. And they did this for the next 30, 40 years. They developed what they call trunk routes. And it seemed to work pretty well, except that during World War II, of course, we know hams were shut down for the period of war. But following the war in the late 40s, amateur radio became very popular. A lot more people had heard about amateur radio and were wanting to get in. And there were a lot more messages being sent around. So the ARRL formed what they called the National Traffic System, which took advantage of all these extra hams who wanted to participate, so that any one person didn't have to spend hours sitting and relaying messages, but anyone could, with even an hour to spend, could contribute to the national traffic system and getting these messages around. And they had outlets for them as well for delivery. So this national traffic system is still in existence today without many changes. Although in the 90s, particularly, we developed a digital network. The advantage of the digital network was a 24/7 operation. And we had automatic calling, automatic forwarding. So nobody had to even be sitting at the station. We were able to operate on what the FCC set aside as automatic control subbands. We started out on AMTOR, we went to PACTOR, and now, just recently, we have added VARA. If you all are familiar with VARA, it's this sound card mode. Use of PACTOR, with PACTOR 1, well, it's now open source, it's very slow. PACTOR 2 and 3 are faster, except that it requires a very expensive modem. You could spend $1,500 to $2,000 on a modem. So now with the digital mode of VARA, we can get the speed of practically a PACTOR 3. It's quite fast and also good with weak signals. And it's giving more people an opportunity to participate and handle traffic. And the digital network does run parallel to the manual nets, and we'll talk a little bit more about how that's set up. And this now, of course, is in existence today. So this is how the national traffic system is set up. It's very structured. You will notice, first of all, that they are layers of nets. This is one of the features of the MTS, is they're layers and there are sequencing of nets. So the country was divided into 3 areas, actually originally 4, but 2 of them combined out here, and they correlated to the time zones. The eastern area is primarily the Eastern time zone, central area, the central time zone, and the Pacific area now consists of the Mountain and Pacific time zones. But notice each area are set up exactly the same. Each area net has various regions. Each area is divided into smaller geographical areas we call regions. And in the national traffic system, we have in the Eastern area 5 regions. In Central, we have 3, and Pacific, we have 3. The region nets are made up of liaisons from the various sections. So below the region nets, we have a series of section nets. And then later local nets were added as well. Local nets are generally around repeaters and serve a repeater area. But traffic is also, we have the traffic nets are layered, and particularly from section nets and local nets are all considered to be training nets. This is where you get experience in how to handle message traffic and experience in learning to be net controls and handling a lot of traffic and getting it routed and keeping track and all that sort of thing. The 3 area nets are connected not through a net, but this we have up here, the Transcontinental Core, if you've ever heard of TCC. It's not a net, but a group of individual amateurs who are managed by a TCC director. And they keep schedules with the counterparts in the other 2 areas. So this is how traffic moves in between the areas. So if you were to put a message on a local net or a section net, you would find a liaison going up to the next level. So in the section net, you would be able to handle traffic for the coverage area of your section. Anything going beyond the section would be listed as through traffic and would be taken by a liaison station up to the region nets. And we are region 1. There, as I said, there are 5 regions in the Eastern area, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 8. And for the most part, they follow the call areas. Region 1 consists of all of New England and the first call area. So when region 1 meets, it's got all the section representatives. We have some sections that are combined in their traffic nets. For example, in Massachusetts, we have combined both Eastern and Western Massachusetts and also Rhode Island. But we'll talk more about when these nets meet in a little bit. In the region net, we have liaisons from those 4. We have 4 section nets that meet at the region level. We have the combination of Mass and Rhode Island. We have Connecticut. We have a combination of Vermont and New Hampshire, and then we have Maine. So any traffic going beyond that region net will go into Eastern area net, where it is listed for the various other regions in Eastern area, and anything listed going beyond Eastern area will be listed for the various TCC reps. So as traffic comes to the Eastern area and we exchange traffic, region 1 might have traffic for region 4. Region 4 might have traffic for region 1. So they are paired together. We send them the region 4, they send us the region 1. Anything coming back to region 1 will come back to in a region net at a later time. So for example, in the evening cycle, we have 2 cycles, and that's one in the afternoon, one in the evening. The evening cycle, the section net will start at 7 o'clock, the region at 7:45, the Eastern area net at 8:30, and then the region net again at 9:30 for incoming traffic. And the section nets, except that ours is not functioning right now, would be meeting at 10 o'clock. So that's the structure and the sequencing. And speaking of the digital network, it runs fairly similar, except that we don't have nets. The digital network has regional hubs and area hubs. And primarily we deal with regional hubs who connect with each other to exchange traffic for their various regions. In New England, I run the hub for all of New England. And I have various digital stations who check in with me to send and receive traffic. So that's how we are made up there. Any questions on that so far?
How long might it take a message to go like from here to Maine or from here to Florida, say?
It varies. We're going to talk in the radiogram about precedence, and most of our messages are routine, and they can take anywhere from 24 to 48 hours, depending upon the nets that are operating, the propagation and the timing and whatnot. But we have been known to get messages out to get, say, to California within an hour's time. So it can vary. And of course, the higher the priority, the faster it's likely to go.
Yeah, so Mark, if I got that right, if I wanted to send NTS radiogram, I could sign into the Mount Greylock net and then
Yes.
take it and get it across the wherever it wants to go, correct?
Right. If you sign into the Mount Greylock net, and most likely Peter would be picking that up because he goes to the region net. KW1U, JKV, and he would take that to the region net, and it would go from there into Eastern area and so forth.
Excellent, thank you. Because sometimes at the summer get together, I get up to 10 or 11 messages on the morning net for points, and trying to get them where they're going is sometimes a challenge.
So you have various options there. You could even, if you're on HF, you can take them into an HF net. Anybody can go into the region net in the afternoon that meets on 75 meters. We also have the Massachusetts Rhode Island phone net, which incorporates Western Mass as well as Eastern. And that meets at 5 o'clock also on 75 meters. And there'll be someone there who can pick up traffic to take into the evening nets.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay. So next we're going to talk about the radiogram, which is what we use. It's a standard for messages. And a radiogram is similar to a telegram in format. And it's interesting to note that the radiograms is actually used globally. It's not just in the US. It's used internationally. The ARRL, if you're familiar with, has a version of radiogram, but it all has the similar makeup. It contains a plain text message, but it has what they call metadata, a new word for me, to which we will add a header or preamble, which contains much the same information that is found in a telegram, actually, which provides a record of the message, which can be easily referenced. And it provides an audit of transmission and delivery, which can be used for tracking as needed. And this is especially important when you have various stations handling a message, as in a relay, such as we might have in NTS. So you have a radiogram format, which we're going to talk about next, but the ARRL has also provided a form, which you probably recognize. They put them out in the yellow paper, very familiar yellow paper. However, these are also available online. You can print them out, and there are a few sites where you can actually use an interactive radiogram. But note there are 4 parts to the radiogram. First part is the preamble or header, we call it. These blocks right up at the top here, we call the header or the preamble. There are 8 blocks here, and 6 of them are required. 2 of them are optional, and we'll talk a little more about that. The second part of the radiogram is the address portion, here where it says to, and we're going to put a name, address, and phone number, etc. The third portion is the text. And notice the text has 5 blanks per line and 5 lines, adding to 25 words. And people say, does that mean we're limited to 25 words? And I say, no, not really. But we encourage 25 words or less, because the shorter the message, the faster it's going to be able to be transmitted. And we know some people tend to be a little wordy, and very often text you might write up could be easily cut down and say exactly the same thing and get the message across in fewer words. So that's why we suggest 25, but if it's more than 25, if you can't get it to less than that, then that doesn't mean we won't handle it. We most definitely will. The fourth part of the radiogram is a signature, and note on the ARRL form, there's no block for signature. I haven't seen one in 40 years. I've been doing traffic handling. I don't know why they haven't changed it, but anyway, you can always put the signature down at the bottom of the text. Note this part here is not part of the radiogram. This is your record keeping. It's important to keep track of if you received it from someone, from whom did you receive it, the date and time, or if you sent it to someone, to whom did you send it, and you want to record the date and the time. This is your record keeping if you ever need to refer back to that. This block over here is if you're going to, for example, mail out a radiogram form to a recipient, you want to put your information in here so that a recipient can locate you if they have questions about the radiogram, or if they might want to even send one back. So if this is used, if you're going to be sending that out in the mail. So we're going to talk about the, let's see. Oh yeah, several points before we get into the various parts of the radiogram. I like to talk about the ABCs of message handling. The ABCs stand for accuracy, brevity, and clarity. Very key factors in writing a radiogram. Accuracy, because we want the radiogram to be exactly the same at destination as it was at origination. Brevity, because shorter is faster, as I just mentioned, less transmission time. But clarity is important also. The recipient must be able to understand in order to take any action. So before you send a message, is it clear? Another thing we need to keep in mind is that in traffic handling, we use ITU phonetics exclusively. If you're not familiar with ITU phonetics, I've listed them here. They're available on the web, on ARRL's website. They're available on our Eastern Mass website, ema.arrl.org, and there's a tab on there for National Traffic System. But I checked on your Western Mass site, wma.arrl.org, and I went to, I think it was formal messaging or something like that. There was something at the top. And if you clicked on there, it gave you a link to our website so that I don't have to put the same thing on 2 different websites since I'm section traffic manager for both. We always use these. These were designed by a group of people who are from various other countries as well, different languages, and these words are found to be very distinctive when sent over the air. And even when there is a lot of atmospheric noise or QRM, people using different languages and what's not. And so these are standard, and this is what we use. We also use a number of standard introductory words and phrases or procedural words. And they're standard throughout the national traffic system. And these are aids in transmitting a message. They're very helpful to a station who's receiving, trying to copy a message. So it's good to know these so that when you are sending a message, you can make use of these and make copying a lot easier. The word number is one of them, and it's only used once. The word number is used at the beginning of the radiogram. The first block is the message number, and that's where we're going to say number. It alerts the receiving station that we're actually beginning the message. We use initials or letter group. If you got something like your HC, what is it? HCRA, is that it? That would be considered either initial group or a letter group. We use the word figures when you got actual figures. For example, if I said 532, I would be writing FIVETHREETWO, 3 words. Whereas if you say figures, 532, I know I'm just writing the figures 5, 3, and 2. So before a number group, we always say figures. If you have an alphanumeric group, you would use the word mixed group. An amateur call would be a mixed group, but it's proper to use the term amateur call before you give an amateur call. I spell, if you're going to spell something, a word, and we'll talk about that a little bit, where you would say the word and say, I spell. Break is a very important one because the word break we're going to use twice in any radiogram and only twice. And one is at the beginning of the text between the address portion and the text, and also again at the end of the text before the signature. The break, actually, you would pause and give the receiving station a chance to ask for any fills. If you pause for a few seconds. If you don't hear anything, you can keep going and assume that they're okay. But break also delineates the text. And it is what between those 2 breaks is what goes into the check count we're going to talk about when we talk about the preamble. Another word we commonly use, end, is at the end of a message. When you come to the end of a message, you're going to say end. We don't say how copy. I hear that so many times, but that's not on this list here. You get to the message, you say end, and that's followed by the receiving station is going to say Roger if he feels he's got it 100%, or he's going to ask for fills. And we're going to use some other phrases such as word after, word before, confirms, and that sort of thing. So these again, I'm not sure where they are. They might be on the ARRL's website, but I know they are on our website. If you click on the National Traffic System tab, and when you get to our page, you're going to look at the top under quick links. There's going to be one called NTS Resources, and there's a series of articles in there that you should be able to find very informative. And that will include all of this stuff. So here is a sample radiogram. I borrowed a few of these slides from a club out in Southern California, which I found online. But I have kind of adapted it. I didn't follow them exactly, but I like the way they presented it. But at any rate, this is a sample, and we're going to go through the various parts of this radiogram. Starting with the number. You see the first block in that header is called a number. And this is your number. If you are writing the radiogram, you are formatting it. You can have any numbering system you want that works for you. We suggest just consecutive numbering. You can start over at the beginning of a new year, monthly, whatever. Or some people are using like the month, which would be 2 at this time, followed by maybe 01, 02, 03, for the number of messages you've originated in this month. But the numbering system is your numbering system. The next block is a precedence. And I mentioned precedence earlier. It's the priority of a message on the net. Emergency obviously is going to come first. And I have to tell you, I have never seen a formal emergency radiogram, but it's there. There obviously must be occasions when you might want to use it, so we put it there. Emergency is always spelled out. You notice up here, the precedence here is abbreviated with the letter. Emergency, however, is always spelled out, and an emergency is considered when there is a threat to, immediate threat to life. Those obviously will be handled first before anything else takes place. The next order of priority is what we call a priority message, and we abbreviate it with a P. But when you're voicing it over the air, you're going to voice it as priority, not P. And a priority message is for official traffic. If you have agencies you're sending messages for, and they have official traffic between officials of the agency, that would be priority. There might be other instances where a message has time value and it needs to be gotten there within a certain time frame. And that could also be a priority. The third order is a welfare, self-explanatory. Welfare can be incoming or outgoing into a disaster area. Outgoing is, of course, somebody within and out the disaster area wants to send a message out to let maybe family know of their status. The inquiries we see coming from the general public wanting to know about people, their families and friends in disaster areas, and you have to be aware that these may take longer to get through. It might take 2 or 3 days, in fact, because people in a disaster area obviously are busy with their own situation and even trying to find someone if power lines are down, internet is down, phones are down, streets are all blocked with trees and wires down, et cetera. So I'm going to keep that in mind if you're trying to send a health and welfare message. This is abbreviated W, but always voiced as welfare. Most messages we use today are routine, and it's abbreviated in R, as this one is. And interesting to note that in most of the rest of the world, while they do handle radiograms, you're not likely going to see any routine traffic. They do not seem to consider that important. We use it here in this country to practice, to train with, and to practice, and to keep the nets viable. If the nets had no traffic to pass, and we rarely see emergency traffic, then without anything to do, people are just going to go away and find something else to do. So this is why we handle routine traffic in NTS. So these are the 4 priorities, which would be handled in that order on a traffic net. The next block is one of those optional blocks. It's a handling instruction. You see HX at the top. That's for handling instruction. And it could be A followed by the letter A, B, C, D, E, F, or G. And you see a list here on this slide of what each one of them is. We rarely see anything like an A, which was in the days of toll calls. I don't know that we even have toll calls today. C, you might see if you want to send a message and get a reply as to the date and time it was delivered, you could put an HXC. So these handling instructions are put on there by originating stations for any information they want conveyed to a delivering station primarily. The HXD delta, on the other hand, is we rarely seen and we don't encourage unless it's important. Each person who handles that message along the relays is going to send a message back that says who they received it from, who they sent it to, the date and time for each. HXF is hold a delivery for a certain day, and it's the numbered day of the month. You see a lot of HXG, but not a lot of people don't bother with that. It has less importance today. So these are the handling instructions, and these are, again, optional. The next block is a station of origin. The station of origin is the call sign of the person who formats the message. That could be you, but it could be someone else, a third party, who says, can you send a message to so-and-so and ask them such and such, or tell them such and such. Their signature is going to go on the bottom. That's from them. However, you're the one who's formatting it. So your call sign, and you're the one that's putting it on the air, your call sign is going to go in that station of origin block. The next block is a check, and the check is very important. It's the number of word groups in the text. We will see in that message that I showed you before, there was actually 21 word groups, and we'll go back through it again. If there are ARRL numbered radiograms in there, it would have ARRL 21. And we'll talk a little more about ARRL numbered radiograms in a little bit. When you are copying a message, you want to make sure that you copied the same number of word groups as are in that check. If not, then you're going to have to negotiate with your sending station to find out where you disagree. The place of origin is going to correlate with these sites. They call it the signatory, the person who signs the message, whether that's you or whether that's a third person. So wherever the person who signs the letter, the radiogram, is located. If this is your message, you originated it, formatted it, it's going to be your location. But if you're originating it for perhaps a family member who's in another city, another state even, it's going to be their place of origin. A lot of people get that confused. The time file, we generally use Zulu time. Again, time file is another optional, along with the handling instruction. Time file is an optional block. We don't encourage the use of it unless it's important. In priority traffic, it probably is going to be important. And when we do use it, we encourage people to use Zulu time, especially when you're going across time zones. But if you don't feel like converting to Zulu time, make sure that you put the time zone that you are in, like Eastern Standard Time, EST. The date, notice the format of the date. We always use the 3-letter abbreviation for the month and the date. We don't need the year. Just this information, and we don't use a digital month either. We would not put 2/16, but rather JAN 16. All of these things help to get a message through accurately. because the receiving station is accustomed to a certain way. And when they hear it in that order, it's going to go a lot more smoothly, less opportunity for confusion or errors. So that is the preamble part of the message. Before we go on, are there any questions on that part of the message?
Watching all this, Marcia, brings me back some 40 odd years when I was doing traffic handling. When I first got my general, I did a bunch of stuff, probably like what Charlie is doing now when I first got my license. Haven't done any since, but all of a sudden I had flashbacks of being, 40 years younger and passing traffic.
I hear that from so many people. A lot of people were doing it long before I was. I was licensed in 1980. I got into traffic in 81, and I've been doing it ever since. But a lot of people were doing it back in the 50s and 60s, and yet they haven't done it recently. But the thing is, I mean, it sounds familiar, but if you get into an emergency situation, how well are you going to remember this? So it's good to keep up with this and review and practice from time to time. So refresh your memory.
Especially with the emergency communications that the hams do.
Exactly. You're right. So the address portion, we need as complete an address as you can give, because remember, the person delivering this traffic isn't going to know this person. They've got to be able to find them before they can deliver it. So we give an address, we give city and state, obviously. A zip code is very important if that message ends up in the digital network. The digital networks forward by zip code and state codes. Remember, that's an automatic system. So it's very important to have that zip code in there, because any message going through any part of an NTS, it could go from a sideband NAT to a CW NAT to a digital system and back into a sideband or 2-meter NAT. So it could go through these various modes, one message on its route to destination. Phone number if you have it, and now we also accept the emails because a lot of people don't answer their phone. People are afraid of telemarketers, so if you can't get them by phone, you can always try an email. So the most complete information you have is very important. Now, when you're voicing this on Admit, you got to remember phonetics. And I didn't mention this. We talked about the call sign and the station of origin. Always give call signs phonetically. My call KW1U, be sure to give it as Kilo Whiskey 1 uniform. Phonetics, because especially when you're on HF, as you probably know, on voice, it can be very hard to pull things out. And we're interested in absolute accuracy, or the message isn't going to get through. So in this particular instance, we would probably say, John, initial Quebec. We use that pro word initial and use the phonetic for Q, which is Quebec. John, Quebec, initial Quebec, doe, and I would spell doe because it could have various spellings. So I'm going to say it's doe, I spell Delta Oscar Echo. Then you're going to give the address, and you come to Parum. How many people would know how to spell Parum? I'm not even sure if I pronounce it properly, but anyway, I would say Parum, I spell, and I would spell that phonetically. And I would probably use the initials November Victor. And there are some reasons for doing that as well. And then the zip code followed by the phone number. At the end of this portion, remember, we're going to say break immediately following the address portion. And then we're going to go into the text. In this illustration, as I mentioned, you have 21 words. And it's easy because they put 5 in a line. It's easy to count that very quickly if you're copying traffic. You'll notice that there are 1, 2, 3 X's, which we will voice as initial X-ray. The X is in place of a period. We don't use punctuation in radiograms. You can use the X for a period in order to separate thoughts. You can use the word query if you're asking a question. But all other punctuation is going to be spelled out. If you feel like you have to use a comma, you would spell out comma. And it would count as a word group. If you say, I want an exclamation point, you're going to spell out exclamation and point, and you're going to add 2 words to your count. All X-rays add a word to your count. So I tell people only use an X-ray. We're not worried about proper grammar here. In proper grammar, you got periods, you got to go at the end of a sentence. Use X-rays to separate thoughts, to add clarity. If it's not clear, and sometimes it's not without that X-ray, then you want to be sure to add it. But note at the bottom, there's no X-ray at the end because we're going to say break, and that's going to denote the end of the message. So no X-rays at the end before the break. And remember the break at the end of the text. 2 types of word groups that you might find in today's world would be like an email address. You're going to put an email address in a text of a message. Normally, we would just write it out. It would just be one group altogether. But if you're going to put it in a radiogram, a email address is going to be at least 5 word groups. For example, I'm KW1U, that's 1, @ and I'm going to spell out @ the name of the symbol. Comcast is 3, dot, and I'm going to spell out dot, Delta Oscar Tango, net. So there you have your 5 words. You spelled out the @ you spelled out the dot. And if you want to put in a phone number, we always send a 10-digit phone number in 3 groups. A phone number would be automatically be 3 word groups. You've got first 3, the area code, the second 3, what we used to call the exchange, and then the last 4. So there's 3 groups, and that would be a count of 3 in your word group if you're including a phone number in a text, for example. And then, let's see, remember, we're going to say break at the end of that before we have the signature. And here is put the signature in the bottom line. He's also included a phone number. Obviously, it's not something you have to do, but obviously Sally wants John, the recipient, wants John, the recipient, to know how to get in touch with him. So she added her phone number there. So any questions on this so far? So we mentioned ARRL numbered texts. The ARRL numbered texts replace common phrases, it says in here in the message body. And it shortens the total word count. For example, happy birthday, greetings by amateur radio, etc. If they're all given a number, specific number, they're all listed on the ARRL website as well as on our website. There's 2 groups of them. One is for more emergency type use, and the second group is more general type use. You notice the ARRL 46, which is mentioned here, which is birthday, best wishes on your birthday. Hope you have many more, something to that effect. And it's shortened it down to just 3 word groups in the text. The ARRL 46. The number is always spelled out for somewhat obvious reasons, because if they don't copy it correctly, they miss a number, it's going to change the whole text. So we always spell it out, and we always spell it phonetically. In this case, it would be a letter group Alpha Romeo Lima. 40, I spell, again, that word I spell, Foxtrot Oscar Romeo Tango Yankee, I spell Sierra India X-ray. And it's counted as 3 words. I just copied a few. You probably, if you've done traffic in the past, you may remember vaguely this list. For example, the ARRL1 is everyone's safe here, please don't worry. So we've taken 6 words here and cut them down to the text is just going to be 2, ARRL1. And you're going to spell it out, Oscar November Echo. And then again, we mentioned this is your record keeping, which you would want to record who you received it from if you did, or who you sent it to if you did that. So that is the radiogram format. Now we're being asked in NTS, can you send an ICS 213 type message? Well, here is an example of an ICS 213 format. Now, this is a general example. Various agencies will have their own take on this, various information that they want to include. But this is the basis of the sort of the general one. And notice you have an incident command. You have a to line with just a name and a position, a from line, name and position, a subject, date, time, and then your message text. This ICS 213 format was designed more like an inter-office memo between agency personnel. There's no way like this, it could go through the national traffic system. However, if we add pertinent information, and I've taken this from WinLink Express software. Those of you who are familiar with WinLink Express, when you create a new message, you look up at the top and you'll see templates, and you scroll down through the list of templates, you will find RRI for Radio Relay International. And they have created this template here, as well as one for the radiogram, and they're very similar. But notice that they have added those 8 blocks at the top, the header, and it even walks you right through it, helps you to fill that out. Notice too that they've given you space to put an address, and with state, province, and a phone number and an email if you want to add that. And then they have here the from, and then followed by the subject and the date and time originated, and then the text. So this can be used through WinLink Express, or you could use it as a kind of a guide to how to send a message by adding the header and the additional address. So yes, we can. Now, the thing is, a lot of traffic handlers are not used to it yet. ARRL has not come out officially with the exact way to handle this. So it is possible, yes. And we have been talking about it in this new group with our new our new assistant division director, Corey, KW1U in Maine, who is the assistant director for emergency communications and public service. So we'll be talking more about that and probably making some recommendations to ARRL. So in the future, expect to see more of this type of thing. But for now, There are some of us who know how to do it. We did an exercise with Mars a year ago last fall where we did handle the ICS 213. NTS converted into radiogram format, and ARRL came up with this. This I just included because I found it online on the ARRL's website, how to convert an ICS 213 to a radiogram format. So you can, if you ever had to do that, you can look that up on the ARRL website. So now you got a message and you want to get it into the system. So how are you going to do that? Well, we know about traffic nets. We have CW nets on the HF frequencies. We have phone nets or voice nets, either on VHF or HF frequencies. And additionally, we have the digital traffic network, which can be accessed on VHF through Packet and on HF through PACTOR or VERA. The digital traffic system operates 24/7, which gives the advantage over having to wait for a traffic net. And we'll talk about the added lines that you need to add to enter the digital network. Also, it's possible to send traffic through WinLink, but with some restrictions. So we'll get to that too in a moment. I made this. These are the nets that are open to people in Western Mass. We have our Mass Rhode Island phone net that meets Monday through Saturday, 1700 local time on 3978. You have your Western Mass net, which now meets just once a day, Monday through Friday at 1800 local. And that meets on the 169.91 Greylock K1FFR repeater. If you're into CW, we have the MARI CW net, which meets at 7 o'clock on 3565. And then there's HHTN, Heavy Hitters Traffic Net, which is an Eastern Mass net, but they meet on the Minuteman repeater network, which gives very wide coverage. And now that network is combined with the Mount Greylock. They are linked together for that net, which meets at 2200 local. So you can always check in there through the Mount Greylock repeater. And they also have access through Echolink. If you look under the conference in Echolink and look for NEW-ENG2. I also included the region nets because if you have traffic, you can always go into the region net. They meet daily on voice of 1400 and 1530 local on 3950. But we're about to change because once we go into daylight savings time, we change the time, and I will always post that on the website. It will be 1445 and 1615, and that's because Eastern Area Net changes their time. They stay on Zulu time and they don't change. There's also the OneRN CW net in the evening, and you know about Western Mass Emergency Net on Sunday. And they do claim in their preamble that they do link with the region, that first region, and with the Eastern Area. So they will handle traffic if it is listed there. I kind of threw this sign, not really in the best place. If you were copying a message and how you could get fills if you needed to, these are some more of those operational words, word after, word before, all after, all before. If you want something between blank and blank, if you want confirmation, these are some of those operational words that we use. The digital hub for New England is KW1U, and I sit on Packet on 145.090 24/7, but from Western Mass, you're probably hard pressed to reach that unless we could come up with a digipeater in between, which at this point, I don't think we have. But I am on HF PACTOR. I scan multiple bands 24/7, PACTORs 1, 2, and 3, and also on VARA. So anyone wanting to try PACTOR or VARA can check with me, and I'd be glad to give you the frequencies that I am scanning. So if you want to use the digital format, this is, you're going to add 3 extra lines to your radiogram. The first line is going to be your command line. It's going to be ST for send traffic, followed by your zip code that the message is going to, an @ sign, and then NTS, and the 2-letter state code, for example, NTSMA for Massachusetts. The second line is going to be your subject line in which you're going to put the city or town of destination. If you have a phone number, you could add the area code, and exchange, you could add an amateur call sign, or if you don't have either of those, you could just have the city or town. These 2 lines are then followed by the radiogram itself in its entirety. And at the end, you're going to add the /EX, which tells the system that that's the end of this message. And here is an example where you see the command line here. It's going to Nakusa because we've already set up here. It's in Wisconsin. We have the radiogram and followed by these /EX. Now, if you want to send a batch of traffic, people do in field day, you can keep adding on to this file here. Follow the /EX immediately by another ST line, and follow any /EX by another ST line for as many messages as you want to put into that file. And then you can just upload that onto my system, and it will individualize each message, and they'll go wherever they are routed to. So WinLink. Should we send a radiogram via WinLink? Well, are we talking about WinLink, the network, or are we talking about WinLink, the email software? Remember that the WinLink network is an email network. They can email to anywhere, any valid email address in the country, not only in the country, anywhere in the world. But you cannot use the zip code and state code. They will not know what to do with that. So if you don't have an email address, or you want to use the DTN for any reason, you could do that. But if you want to use WinLink Express, it will allow you to, first you could send an email to me, to WinLink, KW1U at winlink.org, and include in the body of that email a radiogram, and I can transfer that into, I can upload that into the digital system, and it can go out that way. But I've also been told, and I have to admit I haven't tried it because I'm a sysop and not a user, but if you're using the WinLink Express software, you can use that same ST line, except that you need to put a letters NTS : right before the zip code. And then you have to connect to a digital hub. You cannot connect to your RMS gateway stations. They won't know what to do with it. But if you want to send a message in this format, you must connect to a digital hub, and that would include my station.
For field day, can we snap a picture of a filled in radiogram and email it to your KW1U at winlink.org?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It means I have to manually transfer it into another file to upload it, but it's very quick and easy, cut and paste, and I don't mind doing that. So someday maybe somebody will write me a batch file that would do it automatically, but I'm not a programmer. So, we'll see. But anyway, I'm happy to do that if you want to send a message that way. Okay. Is NTS relevant today? Well, we know from Part 97, the FCC rules governing amateur radio, one of the reasons that we are allowed to operate on such a wide range of frequencies is because we perform public service. And being able to send a radiogram is a public service, even though today's world, we don't get much opportunity to serve the public, but we're there to do so when the occasion presents itself. It's also a good training situation in record messages. We do training on our traffic nets at the section and local level. And you have many opportunities for practice. It gives the nets meet every day of the week. There's opportunities also to develop skills as a net control. We welcome people to do net control and manage the stations checking in, traffic lists, where they need to go, matching people up and so forth. Keeping track of all of that is a lot of fun, and you can get some experience in doing that. Also, opportunities to experience the various modes. We don't use some of the fancy modes for various reasons, but we do, of course, have voice CW, and a lot of people find CW helps them with their code practice. It gives you something to copy, variety of speeds, and it's something that, I don't know, for some people it's better than various random letter and number groups. Anyway, I've heard, and I was this way myself years ago, good practice situation. And it's a fun activity. And you'll find a lot of traffic handlers. We have a lot of fun. We make friends. We get together for picnics and whatnot. And it's just something that a lot of people enjoy. It's another aspect, another thing. There's a lot to learn in traffic handling, a lot of little things that we do, which provide for the accuracy we talked about, the brevity and the clarity. So that's why we use the various tools that we do. But when you can do it and do it well, it's a lot of pride in doing that. So I think with that, I put down a few resources. On the ARRL website, you can look up the NTS manual, has information on NTS. There's the methods and practices guidelines, otherwise known as the MPG. That's a 400 to 500 page document. It's not something you're going to read from cover to cover, and you probably won't read all of it, but it's a good resource guide. It's indexed by, I think there are 9 chapters, and each chapter has a lot of index subjects within it. So you have questions on various things regarding to traffic handling. It's a good resource guide. I mentioned on the Western Mass ARRL.org website, it was formal messaging. If you look up formal messaging at the top of the screen and follow the link to the Eastern Mass NTS site, which I have also given below here. And if anyone wants info on digital NTS traffic, you can contact me and I'd be happy to share the frequencies and help work with you making contact there. So I think that's it. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
Now, I noticed you said another organization, RRI. Have you noticed in the past couple of years if they started doing more than the league? Because I know there was an issue back then where the league sort of just started backing off, or has the league started taking up any slack?
That's a good question. RRI came into existence about 5 or 6 years ago. They split away from NTS, and much of the country affiliates with RRI rather than NTS. But we do all work together, and we are working on getting the two groups closer together. RRI, yes, they are doing a lot more than ARRL has. ARRL has not done a whole lot since the 80s. I mean, I've been active since the 80s. I was on the Eastern area staff back in '84. And we were active then, but by the late 80s, we just they started ignoring us. We were cut from the budget. We were cut from being in QST and whatnot. And radio relay folks have picked up the slack there. But that having been said, now it's like, I'm hoping, it sounds like, especially with our new director, the league is doing a turnaround, and they're interested in emergency communications, and they're interested in what NTS is able to contribute as well, along with the MCOM groups. So I think we'll begin to see more and more coming out of ARRL, and I do hope that they will work towards trying to put the two groups in closer together.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, because I remember you bringing that up a couple of years ago at that cabinet meeting, and that stuck out in my mind. So I just wanted to see if there was any advancement since then. So I appreciate the answer. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other
Thank you.
questions from anybody?
Yeah, I got a question. Is a radiogram in CW the same then in phone, or does it differ?
The radiogram is the same for any of the modes we use. It has to be, because any message can go through any one of the modes at some point in its travels. So it is always the same. One difference is that in CW, we use the Q codes, which of course they are not used in on voice nets. They're used only in plain language. But basically the whole format is exactly the same.
Does that answer your question, Jürgen?
Yeah, it seems to be a little bit cumbersome if you have to do the format the same then in phone.
Formally how? What? I missed that.
It's to me, it's all the additional verbiage you use in the phone doing phone transmission. You could shorten all this in CW, I think.
Well, you could, but they've been, maybe you're talking about some of the additional introductory words, procedural words.
Sure, yes.
Because it's found that this helps in the receiving end, particularly in copying a message. If you know what's coming, you're going to be a little quicker response to what is being sent. You don't have to stop and think about one thing or another. And it's just work to make things go more smoothly, more accurately, more efficiently. So it seems like it would be more cumbersome, but it's not when you get used to it.
Yeah, it might be. I compared this. I was a radio operator in the Air Force, and we used similar messages, but they were far shorter.
Yeah, well, if you're sending it in CW, it is going to be shorter. And being a CW traffic handler myself, I much prefer that. But for those who want to do voice, these are practices that have been found to be advantageous. So,
okay, thank you.
Any other questions, anybody? Charlie, you have anything else?
I'm going to have to watch the video. Unfortunately, I missed the last half of the presentation.
he was on a net.
You think the
I had a
FC
brand new net control tonight, so I had to be there with them just in case needed help.
I made this, my slides, I can do it in PDF format. I can send it to Larry if you want to put it
Sure.
on your club website or whatever.
Most certainly. Most certainly.
And if anybody has any questions, I'm certainly welcome to email me. I'm good at ARRL.net.
I think Jeffrey has another comment.
Well, yeah, I was just wondering if the FCC ever decide to increase the baud rate limit, would NTS adapt Pactor 4?
Oh, absolutely. We've been pushing for that.
I was wondering that. Okay, thanks.
Oh, yes.
Okay, sounds good. Any other questions? Okay, Marcia, thank you very much for coming out. And like I said, watching some of this stuff, I felt like I was back in the late 70s, early 80s doing this when a couple of years after I first got my license. Flashbacks of filling in the form and then sending the form over 2-meter nets to people that have been gone for a long time now, unfortunately. But memories from way back when. It was a lot of fun. But it's something interesting, and it's something most hams should at least have a little experience doing in case they ever need to, and especially for new hams. So thank you for coming out tonight, Thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate it very much. The video will be up on the HRA website within the next week or so. And if you want to send me that stuff to my email, w1ast@arrl.net, it will work its way up onto the website also. And I know a few people that cannot make the Tuesday night meetings that we have, and I know they go and they watch the videos afterwards. So while there was a small group tonight, I know of at least 5 people that said they couldn't make it. They'll be watching the video once it goes up on the website, and you know, it'll gather more attention too. So anyways, thank you once again, and hopefully some of the people that were watching it tonight, you'll see their signature on future radiograms.
Well, I hope so.
Okay.
Well, thanks for having me, Larry. Appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome. Everybody have a good evening. And we have another Share the Knowledge coming up in a couple of weeks. And if I remember correctly, the next one is on JS8 call, which is a mode I'm not familiar with. And I think Aaron KF1G is going to give that talk too. But everybody have a good evening. I'm watching the temperature instead of going, it went down to 38 and now it's up to 54. So I guess the warm weather's coming in before the snowstorm in a couple of days. Everybody have a great week, and thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Marcia.
7-3. Have a good one.
7-3 is all.
And
Thank
and
you.
the, and Larry, the,
Yes.
the readings or the predictions for the snowstorm have gone up just
Really?
since we started. Yes.
What are they up to now?
8 to 12.
8 to 12. Oh my
Oh.
God.
Yeah.
Well, I still
hope
have
they're
gas in
wrong
my
this
snowblower at least.
Thank you, Marcia.
All right, thanks, guys. 7-3.
7-3, Marcia.